Hey, if you're dealing with depression right now, I hope you watch this entire video, because this entire video may be your solution. This entire video, this story that I'm about to tell you, may inspire you, may change you, may motivate you. And I hope you learn something from this. But if you're new here, subscribe to the channel. I post content every single day, Christian content to grow in Christ, because that's a daily thing on this walk of Christ. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get into it. So, one day there was this kid who dealt with a lot of trouble at home. Like any other kid, this kid was, super intuitive, super excited, super joyful about life. Though he dealt with issues at home, he was still super excited about what life had to offer. He was happy with his life, though his home life wasn't the greatest. He was at home, but when he was at school, he has a lot of friends, he has a lot of people that care about him, and he dealt with a lot internally, but on the outside looking in, he was still being able to live his life, to be able to be a regular student, be a regular kid, and just live the life he wants. Go get food with his friends, go to birthday parties, celebrate, go to play recreational sports, AAU sports. He danced, he sung, he did all of that, and he did it with a joyful, kind, excited heart. But deep down, he could never understand why he could never get rid of these deep thoughts, these deep depressing thoughts, these deep thoughts that would hinder him, these deep thoughts that would keep him away. And what he never understood was why his home life was just so terrible. Dad wasn't the best, wasn't always in his life. He was in and out of his life. His mom was there, but she was dealing with addiction problems, and they both kind of went at it, man. Both the parents went at it. They both had issues between each other, and their relationship was torn. Mind you, his parents were together for 2 years. So I'm gonna give you some context. His parents were together for 2 years, right? And he's the only child, so he was dealing with a lot of this by himself. So he didn't have siblings. He didn't have, he does have, his grandmother did pass when he was, even at a young age, younger than he is now. So, this kid, this kid is, mind you, this kid's in middle school, in 8th grade. This is an 8th grade middle schooler who is about to go into high school as a freshman, and he's been dealing with this for years now. And something he could never understand was why his home life was the way it was. Was it that, his dad didn't love his mom didn't love his dad? Yeah, they didn't love each other, but they were together at some point. So this kid, he had to find himself a way out. He had to find another prerogative, whether that was distracting himself with sports, distracting himself with going to different clubs. Like, when I mean clubs, I mean organizations within his school, going to different, going to lunch and just simply having conversation and joyful conversations with his friends, and just being interactive with the people around him and the kids his age. And yes, he was really good with that, but his home life started taking a toll on him. It started, making him struggle, because when he would go to school, he would take what he's experiencing at home to his school life, and then he started taking what he was experiencing from his school life and from his home life to his personal life, with his sports, with his schoolwork, his grades started dropping. He was struggling. But one day, this guy, I'll never forget this. He was at the store, and every time I read this story, it's crazy. So I wrote this story actually, and I was, I'm a storyteller. And so this kid, he's at the grocery store. He's at the supermarket with his mom, because he stayed with his mom majority of the time, because his dad was a little hectic. So he stayed with his mom. He would go to the grocery store with his mom. They would go get the free samples. They would go shop for groceries. They would go do different stuff. Alright, if you have watched all the way towards this point in the video, subscribe if you're new. Subscribe right now. Click the like button. But let's get back into it. So boom, right? So they're back at the supermarket, and this couple, right? This married couple, right? We're gonna call them Susan and Adam, right? So Susan and Adam, they've been married for 20 years. One thing that's held their marriage together is God. But they could tell on the little boy's face that this little boy had been through things. This little boy had been experiencing the deepest depression. This little boy has been experiencing heartbreak and heartache. But you know what they told them is that God will always love you, God will always protect you, and God has your best interest regardless of what you are facing. God will save you from whatever situation you're going through, whatever, because we all have struggles, we all go through things, we all experience things, we all have anxiety, depression, we all feel down on ourselves. But one key thing stays constant and consistent, and is that God is all powerful and all knowing, and He knows. And when He, obviously, this little boy who wasn't in His Word, it's not a Christian household, so mind you, he didn't know who God was. He didn't know what that truly meant. He didn't know until later. The couple and the guy, Adam, who told him about that, told the kid about that, told him, you may not understand what I'm talking about now. He did break down the verses, he did break down scriptures, he did break down the Bible, who God is, right? Who Jesus is, all that, right? And the kid didn't understand, but right, his living situation only got worse, right? Mind you, I didn't give this kid a name. Let's call him Jimmy. Let's call him Jimmy. So Jimmy, he didn't understand what Adam was telling him. But later down the line, when he became a junior in high school, his living situation, his dad was basically out of his life at that rate. And it was only really his mom who was paying all the bills, who was, trying to get by, right? Just trying to get enough money just to get by, just to get groceries, just to keep a house. And they didn't know what to do. But what little Jimmy knew, because little Jimmy ain't little anymore. Now what Jimmy knew now is that, look, he knew who God was, right? Because what he learned, what he figured out, right, through Adam's testimony towards him, is that God is all-knowing. He finally figured it out. Jimmy finally went through an experience. You know what that experience was? Getting a 4-year full-ride scholarship his senior year. His senior year, he got a full-ride scholarship. It saved all the money in the world for his mom. It got him out of a terrible situation, right? Took his mind towards his successes, towards his goals. He started focusing on what God wanted for him, instead of being swallowed up and wallowed up in his depression and his feelings. And see, why I love this story so much, in the end, that's the story, that's the end of the story. But what I love about that story is, and how it relates, is that sometimes we're in the deepest pitfalls of our lives. We feel like we're in the deepest, we have the biggest, darkest cloud around us, and sometimes we feel like there's no way out of that hole. Like there's no way to get out of that lion's den. But see, the lion's den is only a holding place, right? But use a lion's den analogy as a test of your faith and of God's power towards you. How much does God mean to you? Does His protection mean anything to you? Are you faithful? Are you standing on your faith? Are you, regardless of how you feel, still wanting to do the Lord's will? One thing, if you didn't learn anything from that story, anything else from that story, is that regardless of how you're feeling right now, regardless of what you may be going through right now, regardless of what you've been through in the past year, past month, past decade, heartbreak, heartache, God heals. He heals the brokenhearted. The Bible talks about how He heals the brokenhearted. Jesus literally healed a woman from leprosy with a touch of a hand. A touch of a hand. He healed the sick. He healed the lame. If He can heal people just like that, He can heal you from your worst, toughest mental, physical ailments, and even your spiritual ailments. But I hope you learned something. I hope you take this story, use it, share this video with somebody who need it. Subscribe if you're new, like this video. Comment down below what your favorite part was, and as always, God bless every single one of you.